Hi, welcome to this episode of Teaching Academia. Today we're going to talk about being okay with discomfort. And by that, I mean helping your students find a way to be okay with being uncomfortable with some of the issues that learning may bring up for us. And as a teacher, knowing that this is a perfectly normal part of learning. All right, so I wanted to try something a little bit different with this video and actually be present on it so you could see me. We'll see how this goes. But I wanted to talk really about, this idea of being okay with discomfort. And I want to start with a little story. So for years and years and years, I've had a regular yoga practice. And while it's been really good, what's happened is over time, I've become really comfortable. I've become really comfortable with the studio that I was at. I became really comfortable with the postures that we did, the sequence, the rhythm, everything like that. And then recently I went to a class that was very different from what I was used to doing. And what happened is I was really confused. I didn't always know what was going on. I didn't understand all the postures. I couldn't always hear what the teacher was saying. Everything was really different from what I was used to. And I, spent most of the class confused and just kind of uncomfortable, not in a bad way, right? Mostly in a mental kind of a confusion. And I became aware of this and I realized I'm okay with this. It doesn't make me a bad person just because I'm confused, just because I don't know what's going on. It's very different, right? What I'm experiencing. And that particular class was very different from what I would normally experience. And that's okay. And that experience really made me see that there are some implications for discomfort in terms of how we think about our teaching. And I don't know about you, but one of the things that I do in my classes is it's not that I'm trying to do this, it's just that I realize that I push on students' comfort level all the time, right? It varies, of course, depending on the student, but I tend to ask students to do things that they just aren't used to doing. And if you check out my blog, which I will link to in the show notes, you can see that some of the stuff that goes on in there is just, for the most part, not super traditional. There are students that gravitate to that. There are students that embrace it and love it, but that's not the norm. Most students are actively uncomfortable with the things I ask them to do in varying degrees, right? Because it just doesn't match up with what they think school looks like or what school should look like, right? But I typically ask for students to do more than sit for a lecture. I don't necessarily need them to write traditional papers. I'm not asking them to look for right answers to pass the class. I want them to contribute to things. I want them to have input on how the class is shaped. And sometimes I give them very loose directions for assignments on purpose. And it's not that I'm trying to make them uncomfortable, right? I'm just recognizing that some of what I do may come across as non-traditional to them. And I think that we have to recognize that we've all moved through a system where we're rewarded for being passive, we're rewarded for following the rules. And if someone expects you to do something slightly left of center, it can be a little bit unnerving, okay? And I've seen students try to take an assignment and restructure it to fit into their comfortable, their box of what school should look like. And I've seen students work very hard to make it fit into that box. And as if they meet the requirements, I let them do it. I kind of feel bad for them because they're working really hard to try to make it conform. And it doesn't need to conform in the way that they're thinking it does. But I also don't force them to engage with the discomfort. But I do think it says a lot about their experiences and how they interpret them and how they respond if something different is offered up. And so I just want you to be aware of that. I just wanted to raise awareness about discomfort today. I know that in my teaching, I look for ways to push myself. I don't like to get comfortable with my teaching. I always want to be pushing on myself to improve, which means I'm always doing things that as a teacher make me a little uncomfortable because I don't always know how it's going to play out. But because I'm putting myself in these kinds of situations where I have no idea how things are going to go, my students are probably going to be experiencing some discomfort as well, right? If I'm pushing on my norms, then I'm probably definitely pushing on their norms. And I can't make them engage in it, but personally, I think it's a really powerful way to grow. And so I just wanted to raise awareness about how as we push ourselves in our teaching, our students may become uncomfortable. I think we need to acknowledge that. I think, to ourselves and also to them. And I think we need to say it's okay, right? It's okay to be uncomfortable with learning. It's a perfectly normal process. All right, so please feel free to contact me if you have questions about teaching and learning in higher education. My email address is leahall39@gmail.com. And you can find my blog, Teaching Academia, online at leahall.wordpress.com.